Mr. Warren, would you do roll call, please?
Yes, I will. Brian Moses, chair here. Barney Cox here. Gail McClellan is here. And, Wendy Cambridge is here. Pam Capps not present, and Paul Glover not present. I certify there's four.
Thank you, Mr. Appleby. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. Big night. Thank you. Big attendance, historic commission meeting, and I'd like to see that. We will start off here. Do we have any announcements that we need to make? No announcements. We'll move right on to public comments. And Heidi, would you like to start?
Hi, I'm Heidi Sager. I don't think I've met hardly anyone. I run and own Cranberries Antiques, and I've been in the building now since 2012. There's a lot of issues going on in the creek behind Cranberries Antiques. The sidewalks, of course, are way out of order. The creek wall is actually fallen down. I don't know if y'all noticed or walked back there behind that creek. The runoff is dropped the wall, and it's pushing up against the trees. The trees are basically holding the asphalt and everything together. But what's happening to the building's moving with it, which is causing cracks. That building, of course, was built in 1947. It's a historical building here, just like the bowling alley is in this building that we're standing in. I have discussed this before. I've actually met with the mayor on it, and I think it's time for an action call. If any of you would like to walk the building with me or walk the creek area with me, I'd be happy to show you things that are happening. But the sidewalks, I know, belong to the city. I don't know if streetscapes is involved in any way, but there's some serious issues going on back there. And the way that it's affecting the building is my most concern, evidently, but I just would hope at some point in this meeting in the very near future that y'all do something to help stop the erosion, rebuild the wall, put a retention wall, maybe some better drainage in there to get the runoff, so it's not washing away the foundation that's back behind our building, because all it is doing is disrupting that whole corner is at jeopardy of course moving. So I appreciate you and thank you for listening to me.
Good comment. Next, Mr. Wayne Gosnell.
Thank you. I just like to talk briefly about the 2-1 overlay corridor. And I'm hesitant to really say anything because I haven't been a part of that. And a lot of people have done a lot of work on this thing over the course of the last year. And I'm hesitant to criticize that. First, we have to have an overlay corridor. Some people say we don't need any more regulations. We have too many regulations. When it goes good the way it is. Well, that's good, but it's not going to stay that way, because we know development is coming. And if we don't have some sort of corridor overlay design guidelines on it, we're going to be overrun by corporate America. If Walmart comes in here, we can't tell Walmart to go away. We don't want you in here. That could do it because we'd super like they have their sales tax coming into the city. Maybe we could fill some of our potholes with that. But we can't tell Walmart, if you want to come in here, you've got to look like this. You got to build a building that looks like Monaco. We saw a building in Hilton Head, South North Carolina. Is that where Hilton Head is? It's a Walmart. But boy, look, you're looking at it, you couldn't tell it. It looks like little bitty houses that fit right into that community. And those are the kind of guidelines that we need to have. The overlay that we have here needs to tie back in to the design guidelines that we currently have and that the city council has approved. We need this to show the kinds of buildings we would like to have on this 281 corridor and the kinds of buildings we don't want to have. The way that it is written now, it's really complicated. I got totally lost trying to understand what it was. I think it needs to be simplified. I talked with a member of the who had input into this. Gave 7 pages of recommendations for clarification, some of which were wrong after we talked. I made an assumption that was wrong. Now I understand. But bottom line is, I believe these overlay, this table overlay needs to be tied back in to the design guidelines. And it needs to be correct, drastically simplified. And there's no hurry to pass this. We've got time.
Thank you, Mr. Gagnon. See Martha, so I'm assuming she won't be here.
Who knows where she is?
Okay. Mr. Bill Dupuy.
Hi, I'd also like to speak in favor of the overlay. Chapter 9, I believe, covers the construction and ordinances, things like that, all the way from city limit to city limit. And this will cover the area from Blanco Avenue to 14th Street. It's designed to maintain the look and feel and character, I think, of Blanco as we have it. It doesn't dictate what buildings have to look like. It does require consistency throughout this area to avoid the look of commercial strip mall like you have in Marble Falls or through Johnson City. These guidelines are only going to be applied to the older structures as they're moved, remodeled, or remodeled, and will not affect the historic district. Y'all got your own guidelines and rules. And they're much more strict than these levels. This is going to be our first line of defense against profit-driven ugliness of parking lots and brick boxes and billboards like you see in these other towns. If these ordinances prove to be too taxing, too much of a hardship for the developers, they can always ask for variance. So, what's more concerning to me is this 281 relief route. This is not a little road that will allow trucks just to, avoid going downtown Blanco. This is going to be a 4-lane divided highway, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss the exit for life. It will be built outside of the city limits, and we will not receive any taxes or return whatsoever on the money we put into it. Henderson is paying $12 million for theirs. I think we have a lot more obstructions than I think we probably for 20. Decent. It will be for convenient for San Antonio and Austin, and you're going to end up with subdivisions and muds and developments all along there. Again, pollution, runoff into the river because they're so close. And it'll lead to construction of downtown Blanco too. All the businesses will be bankrupt. But they put in subdivisions, they'll put in an HEB, those. They'll put in Home Depot, they'll get rid of KC's and the Ace down there of those things will just disappear. Instead, I suggest we take that $20 million and invest it into Blanco. So we can work to absorb this oncoming traffic that's supposed to be coming along. We can put in traffic lights. We can slow the speed limit back down to 30 miles an hour, which is a state statute for urban highway, urban streets. If it proves too inconvenient for drivers, they can play the text dot can build a bypass on their own. Won't cost us anything. I think working to spend this money in Blanco to come up with ideas that will, absorb this traffic and keep it coming through Blanco where we can pop up. It would be a much better investment.
Thank you, Mr. Dupuy. Martha, would you like to take a moment to speak?
I just want to address the issue of doing anything in too big of a hurry. We saw the overlay for the first time a week ago, and we're not official. We know that there's been recommended changes to it since then. And I actually don't know what version you all have had a chance to review. And I think that it ought to be, any decisions ought to be postponed until everybody has had a chance to look at the most recent revised Thank
Okay.
Thank you, Mark. We round Lily's here. Is there anybody else who would like to make any comments? If they can get their name on the list, just to make sure. All right. With that, first thing on our new business is consideration, discuss, and take possible action on the appointment of a vice chair of the Blanco Historic Preservation Commission. Anybody have any thoughts on that at all?
I don't want
Don't want to be. Don't work on it. Okay. Point taken, you're already snowed under. Are you willing to be the vice chair of the Blanco Historic Commission?
What does that mean?
That would mean if I miss a meeting, you've got to run the meetings. Essentially, other than that, I'm going to assume the same responsibilities as the commission. That's something you'd be willing to do. Anybody have any objection? Somebody like to
I
make a
think we should
motion?
ask Pam in case she'd like to be. Do you know what her feelings are?
I do not, and I
Because she's
think
been
that's
here a
something.
long time and maybe we should ask her if she wants to be. She should have priority.
That's the point taken. How about anybody on motion to table?
My motion, we table it until Pam is able to attend.
Okay, anybody second that?
I said,
All right. We have a motion to table the first item of business and a second. All in favor? That passes unanimously. Okay. We'll move on to old business, approval of minutes for January 30th of 2023. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
yes, okay,
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we pass both of them.
Gail makes a motion that we pass the minutes. One second. All right. All in favor? That passes unanimously. Approval of minutes. Okay. Most important line of business here, I'd like to introduce our new commissioner, Barnaby Cox. Sir, welcome to the commission. It's this first official meeting tonight. Everybody.
Maybe he should introduce himself and tell us his history.
How much history do you want?
Just in basic stuff.
Just introduce that 2 minutes.
10 minutes I can do that. I've been here for, I'm originally from Florida. I've been here for, gosh, better part of 2 years, moving 2 houses and most of 2 families out of Florida. And we're a lot happier here in Texas. And we decided to come to Blanco because it's not a suburb. That's the most important part of it. The small town, what it has is something, I feel strongly, is something to be preserved. My father, he's still around. He's 90 years old. He was an architect, and he instilled in me a love and respect for old buildings and old architecture and vernacular architecture and walkable towns and things like that. And so we like the people here and the feel and the fact that it's a connected town. And I'm interested in helping with whatever can keep it more an interconnected place. All that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Welcome aboard.
Well, we'll move on to item number 3, discussion related to current projects and their status of what we have going on. This will be good for you because you get an insight on some of the projects. First one is our banners that are supposed to be hanging on the 4 corners of our. Okay, I am in charge of that, and it is at a standstill. Just so you guys know, I've made 4 phone calls to BHPC requesting nicely for them to come remove the old banners and install the new ones. And I have been told that I will be called back in a short period of time, and I received no calls back. So I'm ready to step it up to the next level, maybe not so nice, and or unless somebody else would like to take on that project. That is the update on it. We have no time period of when our new banners will be installed as of right now.
I can follow up.
Okay, you do follow up. Well, thank you. Next item would be our walking tour brochures. Wendy.
We are still in the process of putting that together. The one thing I need to get from the commission is approval to pay her just a tad more because we're going with color.
Good, I have come.
And I can't give you that. I think it was, I'm sorry, I don't have it here. I think it was $3. It's either 50 cents, $1, or $2. I've got 3 projects going on right now, so I'm not sure which one of those apply. But it would then give us the color as we reviewed last time. So I just need your approval to do that or not do that.
I vote that I make a motion that we approve whatever money it takes,
Gail motions to approve whatever money it takes to get the walking tour brochures.
just to get
Do
it
I have a
out.
second? Mr. Cox seconds. All in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Wendy. Next would be the 175-year Blanco anniversary. I don't believe we have a presentation from the mayor tonight. We'll talk a little bit about that. Gail and I are in charge of trying to get the beginning stages of our 175-year anniversary party planned. We're a little ways away from the party right now, but it is good because we don't have a lot of planning done either.
Somebody said that over for me, I'll be 83 then.
That's right, that's right. But, our current plan is to,
That's no excuse.
speak to some of the folks that helped plan their 175th party in Fredericksburg, Texas. And
And I do have a connection with them, and I will follow up. I meant to this month, but this month got prepared, so I didn't.
long-term project, that's something, if you're interested in, you can help her too. It's a long-term project that we don't have to have a solution for right away, but we need to be working towards.
Harass them to harass them.
That's right, that's right. Anything else on that one? No? We'll move on to the 281 overlay. It has been amended and returned, and we'd like to discuss it amongst the impact on our historic district that it may have, if there is any, and anybody's personal feelings on the commission about it.
Martha had a great statement that we should put it off until we know what we're voting for. I don't believe in voting for something we don't know about, and if they're still in the process of making changes to it, it kind of is a waste of time to, unless we know exactly what the historic impact is, you know, if we talk about it and they come back with updates, we have to talk about it again. And I feel from the community that it is hasty. But that's just conversation. I'm not making a motion. or anything.
Wendy, since you have been on the committee, your feelings on it?
I was part of the initial committee and still am on part of it. And I think I sent out to all of you. You got it? What I sent to the commission is just a portion of the overlay, and those are the tables. Because I think our primary interest, certainly you can read the entire thing. And it's a challenging read, but it's a good read, and I think it's protection for Blanco. I would absolutely feel that we need something in place. But for our commission, I believe our place of interest is in regards to these tables that I sent, where it shows the historic area, what is allowed and what is not. It's either permitted, not permitted, or there are limitations on what is in the historic district. So if you look at that, and I encourage you to look at that, if you haven't at this point, certainly by next meeting, to give your input as to what you feel should be allowed or not allowed or limited in the historic district. Brandon is here, and he is the gentleman that has put this zoning manifesto together. It's something else. It really is. And Brandon, I would like to invite him to the podium. If
Absolutely.
we have any questions, you can certainly answer those. Because this should be a question and answer time, so we all know what we want to be. in regards to the historic.
Yeah. Thoughts or questions on that?
I am just, I would like to, it would be helpful to me and maybe to other people to just do, go over the process of where we are, starting and where it's going and the legal authority, legal parts of that, like what, I know it goes here, but then where does it go after that? That's sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. My name's Brandon Deland. Sorry, I'm a little, just had a sneezing fit for some reason. Pleasure here this evening, and I've had a great time working with this community over the last year. Just to kind of build on that, so we started out last year, up February, March. This project from the get-go has had a steering committee. And the steering committee has been made up of members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, City Council, staff, and other stakeholders in the community, like business owners and residents. So we had a pretty balanced steering committee. The point of the steering committee is so they can drive the process and do the day-to-day kind of work, not day-to-day, but kind of the detail-oriented work. That way, the Planning and Zoning Commission and Council can focus on the bigger issues. And so in that process, we've had a few meetings. We started from the high level, what are our high level objectives? And then we've eventually worked our way all the way down to the detailed code that you see. It's about 20 pages. Also in that process, back in July, we had a community meeting that the city noticed for. So we had quite a few people come out. It was pretty good turnout. We had that meeting over at the Gym of the Hills. And so the point of that meeting was twofold. Number one, we wanted to get feedback from the community on, what kind of intervention you could say the community wanted to see in this code. But the other reason was the city doesn't have a comprehensive master plan. A lot of times, a consultant comes in and they're able to look at a comprehensive master plan, and that gives guidance to what the zoning should be. Comprehensive plan is, I always say, it's the dog, and zoning is the implementation of the plan, which is the tail. The dog wags the tail. So we're creating a tail here, but we don't necessarily have the dog to wag the tail. So the other part of that meeting that we had was to kind of do some planning and figure out what do people envision this corridor being, because the city doesn't really have a vision for it at this point in time. So I think we had a pretty good turnout on that. You said, here's the kind of land uses we see along the corridor. And that gave me, as your consultant, the ability to go back and write some regulations to make sure that happens. As you pointed out, I couldn't have said it any better. You said it a lot better than I frankly would have about, you guys are on the beaten path here. And so I like that. I agree with you. Corporate America is coming for you guys, just like they came for Bull Verde and they're in San Antonio. And so I think, in my opinion, this code, obviously it's written for everybody in this room in the community, but really as a planner, I've seen enough in my career to know this code is intended to protect you guys from outside interests. Global, just the large corporations that want to come in and put their big boxes. They don't care about the community in this town. So, so that's really what our goal has been here, and really, hopefully, it resonates through this code that we've worked together to write. I have a pen, and I've got I write these things, so I know how to write the words down. But it's been a group process to put that together. So I wrote it with the feedback that I've got from this community. So credit to everybody. So that being said, that was written back in October. And steering committee has had a chance to review it. Planning and Zoning Commission has had to review it. I hope members of the council have had a chance to look at it. You guys have had a chance to look at it. We've met different business owners within the community. Got some really great feedback from the business end in terms of their concerns. So we want to bring it to you guys and get your feedback, since the historic district is one of the pieces of the corridor. So this is where we are tonight, getting this feedback from y'all. And I think this is probably one of the final aspects of feedback that we're going to do on this project before we go and put the final touches in. So where do we go from here? I think tonight, I think we're going to generally talk about it, introduce it. You guys are going to read it in a little bit more detail, come back and kind of make a final blessing on it, or final recommendations to the next meeting, it sounds like. And then from there, there's state requirements and legal requirements that have to take place. everybody that is going to be, all properties that are going to be affected by this zoning have to be properly notified. In fact, everybody within 200 feet of a piece of property that's going to have this zoning overlay applied to it has to be notified. So there's a pretty big notification area. A lot of property owners in this town are going to get a letter saying the zoning on your property is going to change. And sometimes that freaks people out. And so that's what we have zoning commission and city council forced to have that dialogue. So there'll be more discussion there. So we may change shapes based on the feedback you get from your property owners. So there's a few steps. So it needs to go to the planning and zoning commission. That's the next step, planning and zoning commission. In the adoption process, they'll have a public hearing. State law requires them to have a public hearing. People come up here and say, I like this, or I don't like this, I like this, I don't like that. Planning and zoning commission makes a final recommendation to city council. They may say, let's approve this thing, let's approve this overlay under these conditions, change this and this and this. They might table it and say, hey, this is a big thing to digest. We need a couple of meetings to do that, kind of what you guys are doing tonight. So ultimately, when everyone's in consensus, the planning and zoning commission says, we vote to recommend that the city council approve this change. And it goes to the city council, and they have a public hearing there too. Only that time there has to be notice that goes to the newspaper saying we're changing all the zone on all this land here. And then the city council listens, to property owners again. And based on that feedback, they make a final decision on it. And once the city council votes to approve it, it's approved, and there's an ordinance that's created that makes it the law. And so that's, and then after that, then the fun part starts. Then people come in and request building permits, and you deal with the Walmarts, and you have local business owners too, and you start applying the regulations and working with people. So yeah, that's a breakdown of the process. I don't have a formal presentation for you guys in terms of like talking about the nuts and bolts of the ordinance. You guys have it. Maybe it makes more sense. Next time I can come back and give a more detailed presentation, or if y'all want to ask some questions, that's cool. Or I can give y'all like 5-minute overview of it.
Got a few questions. Absolutely, just to start with. Well, obviously, I wasn't on the committee, but I was there.
You were there. I saw you.
Okay.
Thanks for your help too.
I appreciate all the hard work that you've done, and I appreciate all the hard work that everybody that was on that committee has put forward. There was a few things I've heard you say along the process. I do remember you saying that Blanco does not have a comprehensive master plan, correct?
Correct. It does not have the current comprehensive master plan, to my knowledge.
2006.
2006.
That's not really current. Current, exactly. And nobody ever made you aware that there is an architect working on streetscapes design for the city. And they're starting with the historic district. And the other thing is our Blanco design guidelines were originally written as an overlay adopted across the entire city as well. So that's just kind of my question. You were not made aware of any of that ahead of time, were you?
No, I was. I'm aware of it. Actually, Sue Ann Griffin and Howard wrote your guidelines. She was my thesis advisor at UTSA. So now we're in those guidelines. They're fantastic guidelines. Recommend that those stay in place. And that's a key thing that I just want to point out here is that this code is this overlay code is not intended to replace any guidelines you have, any current work that's being done by the architects. This is a zoning code that's going to be applied for the entire corridor. In fact, the guidelines that you have for the historic district, most of those guidelines can only actually be applied within the historic district. State law has changed. There was a law that went into place a few years ago that said that cities can't regulate building materials through zoning. There's a carve out for historic districts and in other areas of special interest. So you all still have the ability to regulate building materials, and you also have some abilities through state law to go even further with things. But there's still a lot of interpretation in terms of Y'all are a general law city, so you can't do the same things that a lot of home rule cities can do with respect to regulating buildings and architecture and things outside of your historic districts. You got your historic regulations, they're great, and those will remain, and it's recommended in this process that those remain and that this be a supplement to those existing regulations, those existing historic district guidelines.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So a new zoning, was approved a year or two ago, for the whole town. It was painful and everything, so what will this do to that new zoning? Replace it?
This is not going to replace that zoning. What this is going to do is replace that zoning along the 281 corridor. So the 281 corridor, as this team has defined it, is the land on 500, take the center line of 281, we go 500 feet on either side. That's what we're defining as the 281 corridor. So this
How many
overlay,
feet on either side?
500 feet. And so what this is going to do is apply to all the land on either side, 500 feet on either side. But outside of that 500 feet, the zoning that you have, that you spend all that time and energy working on, is still going to apply there. So that process you went through was not in vain. It's going to apply to all of the land within the incorporated city limits of Blanco outside of that 500-foot corridor zone that we can talk.
So I'm not clear. Are we gonna be asked to pass this and approve this before the final copy is in our hands? Because he said that it's being simplified and things like that, and I am not comfortable approving anything that's not the final copy, and you don't seem to know when that's gonna be.
Well, he's still taking input at this point. in
So
time.
you're not asking us to take any action until we can read the final copy?
So I, in terms of what you're being asked to do, that, the Planning and Zoning Commission is required by law to make a recommendation to the city council. There is no legal requirement that this body, as the Historic Preservation Commission, provide feedback in that process. It's my understanding that the city manager and the council wants all of the citizen-led or appointed bodies in the city to weigh in on that process. So I think what, and I don't want to speak out of turn, I think what the idea is that y'all are going to be providing some feedback on the draft. That's correct. On the draft that's in place.
I don't like that. I want to see the final copy before I vote for anything.
I'm not going for anything, but you're not voting to approve anything. You're here to provide comments to the P&Z at the council. So there really isn't you're not statutorily approving or not approving this. That's the fact. Fact is the council will approve it or not approving the conditions.
What my idea would be on that is that if we vote on anything today, it's like we both asked for the time to allow us to read this and observe it, come up with comments
Read the
or
draft.
read the draft. If you have any recommendations, problems, issues, whatever, questions, concerns, we provide those as a commission at our next meeting. We ask that they do not put it through P&Z for approval until we have been able to provide proper our comments on feedback. Exactly.
I think as the historic commission, we really need to focus in on how does this affect our historic district.
Exactly.
And if in time, we hope to create other historic districts, so how will it apply to those? Certainly, we all need to read the recommendations and interesting reads. But for us, we need to focus, my opinion is we need to focus in on how does this affect our historic district. That's what we're here to do. And then once you've had a chance to look at what I sent you, and I will send you the most recent one that
See,
changes.
that's what bothers me. It changes.
And nothing is gonna change.
So nothing's gonna change in the historical.
In the historic, they're asking us right now, what do we recommend? They have already done their thing on the historic district.
Right, so just to summarize some of the changes, I think it was 3 weeks ago that we met, the steering committee met last, and then I think a month and a half before that, the planning and zoning commission met. And so, based on my memory, the difference between what you're looking at right now versus the latest changes are primarily changes in the permitted use table to the general area and the community. The general streets and the community streets, not so much the historic. So I would say, based on the draft that you have right now, it would not be a waste of time if you read the draft right now. And then I know what you're looking at, because it was the version before the one that I just sent.
Why don't you
this
send us
week.
the latest version?
Absolutely.
That'd be really good.
That was hot off the press this Saturday, actually. But the changes from the previous version to the one that's the latest one are not, to my knowledge, ones that have affected the historic district.
Correct. And
I'll send
that's
that
my
to you guys.
understanding.
That'd be great.
And at the last steering committee meeting, that was the feedback from you guys is what we wanted before we update the historic sections in the new draft. So I'm really curious on your feedback for the use table and obviously anything in the historic district. So we need feedback from you guys before we can make a final draft, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes. And that's, and essentially, commissioners can send their feedback to the, meeting on it, correct?
That's
I mean,
And who would you like us to send our feedback to?
should we send feedback directly to Warren?
I will.
Down Warren with it?
Yeah.
All right, we can do that. Do that. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And we appreciate the time to be able to look at this.
And the new version, I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
No other action necessary on that.
Laura, would you like to speak any more to it, or are you good? I think I'm good. We would really like feedback from the historic commission once you guys have time to look at it. And if you have questions, you can email me or come. Happy to
Absolutely.
discuss.
Thank you for the transparency. Okay. And as far as the 281 relief route task force, Wendy, do you want to make any?
They have met 2 or 3 times. There's quite a large group, actually, almost fills this room, representing different facets of the community, businesses, historic. We are represented historically, the town of Blanco, by the Blanco County Historic Commissioner, and that is Jonelle Haas. So she's managing that end of it. And I'm working with her on that. We're trying to gather as much historical data as we can, not only of the town of Blanco, but beyond our boundaries. Because the more we can identify, the more we have to take the tick stop and say, we need to protect this, 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 and this. So our historic representation in that 281 is Jonelle, myself, and that's pretty much it, although we do have support groups also helping us as needed. But it's this whole process. We've met 2 or 3 times. We had it scheduled, I think, for this month, and that got postponed until probably next month. So the town is actively involved in trying to come together with data and ammunition. So when TxDOT comes forward, you know, we've got something to say. We have proof, we have documentation, we have whatever it takes to show them what is around us historically.
Thank you, Wendy. Now, great call on the projects that are stalled out on hold right now. We need some help. Historical markers and placards. We need someone to lead the project. That currently is me, which is going slow. Is that something that you might be interested in helping develop? We're trying to develop historical markers for local government so we can get historic designation at a city level. Kind of neat little project. I appreciate that. Commissioner Cox, can you help me with that? Gateway, need more specific information regarding the relief route. I think we're gonna get more specific information on that as that task force is over now. Okay.
So,
Are you comfortable working on that? Do you need help on that or
I'm
anything?
glad to help you. I'm in charge of the other grant.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yes, I've been working with the city mayor, Chamber of Commerce, and myself and Janelle have met 2 or 3 times to discuss it, how to pull it together, the plan of action. And we were really moving forward until this whole thing happened. So we pulled the reins back and just said, okay, we need this way.
Was I doing it?
Exactly. The location of its placement is the biggest issue at this point in time.
Orchard of Blanco?
What does that mean?
That is the booklet.
Ah,
And Hollis is working on this. So this is a great booklet as it is, but she wants to probably double the size. Because there's so much more to be represented for Blanco historically. So she's working on that.
okay. The inventory survey. This is something that's probably gonna take all of us. Okay, so the inventory survey is all of the current properties that we have that are historic in town. We have to inventory everything. We also have to inventory anything that may be added to that list that is now 50 years or older and could meet.
Everything in this town is 50 years old.
I know that's a little bit of paperwork to be done. We've got an inventory, but that's part of what is required of us by the state, and it also helps us figure out how we're gonna expand the historic district one of these days. So that's part of it. And that's something that is probably gonna take a little bit of all of us to get up on and try to get.
We could use a lot of community volunteers. It was done 10 years ago. The survey was done. It was all documented. The state has that survey and inventory of all buildings. But in 10 years, many buildings have now graduated up into historical. So it's just going back. We already know most of the town, but there are others that we can now add to it. So if we could get volunteers from the community to do some drive-bys or something, give them the correct criteria of what they need to use to identify what's historic, and then let them go. I think that's how we did it last time, perhaps. There was a number of folks that went around gathering data and then came back and we consolidated them. But it is part of our certified local government responsibilities with the state to do this every 10 years.
The whole city?
The whole city.
The whole city.
So
The whole city.
Okay.
And there's a lot of advantages to doing that too, that may unfold as we move on.
okay, so that's gonna be a team effort, guys. We'll figure out how to get that done. Another little project, museum. We need someone to lead the project to find a new location for the city museum. We have items that the historic district has and other people have. Were originally, some of them were on display at the museum one day, some of the stuff.
I'm not sure. I think those were all returned. Everything was all returned,
Okay.
but others are bringing things in. Again,
We have no place to display historic items. We thought about possibly asking the courthouse or asking the Jackson across the road. We could designate a small space to display historic items that are brought to us and various entities.
it'll be an ongoing project, but we just need to keep it, I think, on the,
On the,
on
on the
social.
top burner. Who was working on that?
No one.
No one.
Well, I think because we kind of ran up short about where to ask.
Where to
and what
ask.
to do, because it's going to grow. Some people suggested the old fire station, and somebody said, well, that's way too big, but eventually it won't be too big. So if the city could give us a corner of that or something, that's the only suggestion that I've heard, that was available maybe. Other people want to make it a parking lot, but the building is valuable, and there's a lot of pros and cons, but I mean, just guess of where it could go.
Well, I would take a crack at that and see what we can develop in that process here moving forward.
You know, Ryan, too, if volunteers within the community want to take part in any of these projects, they are more than welcome and invited to do that. And one of us will be identified as the leader of the group.
One of them could be the leader of the.
And they could be the leader, they can bring in that historic
So
commission.
maybe I'll put the word out. We need some
Yes, we need
volunteers. Okay.
Well, what's the first thing that's gotta be done there?
As far as the museum, we need to figure out a location. That's the hardest part is location. And essentially, it's gonna have to be a location that is probably donated because it's not something that we have a budget for operating a building or a museum. But at the same time, we have lots of items that can be displayed and people might find interesting. So that's the hardest issue there is lack of money, need of space, and that's everything around here is trying to get us here. Yes, ma'am.
There's this huge area that the Lincoln Library owns behind it, that they don't do anything with. Have you thought about addressing it at the library?
Possibility other than there would have to be a building built or something.
Oh, y'all not rid of the house,
No, we currently have no,
It's not our house.
no.
I don't know.
That was donated deal where they were allowed that to be
I thought
used.
y'all were gonna move.
Yeah. Call that in for a moment. Okay. Moving on to item number 4. Warren, do you have an update for us on Blanco Pharmacy and Wellness?
I've tried to contact the person, I haven't got hold of them, but I want to hold of them this week. That interview, yeah, there's a lot of signage that we need to simplify it and only allow, well, probably a compromise, we'll have to allow what normally is allowed. So, and then I've got my ducks lined up in a row and I finally have an issue that I want to talk about both things, both that and the alley. So we're getting there.
Coming along.
Yeah, we're gonna contact them. So.
And the pharmacy did, they did turn the agreement letter into you.
Yes.
Yeah, I did see that. Okay. Did you guys get a copy of the agreement letter?
Yes, I have that.
Okay, so I'll make sure that,
Do we get to vote on that if everything's in it and we're comfortable? Or is it?
they agreed to all of the terms that we placed on them. Now it's a matter of them to live up to the terms.
Did the letter specify all the things that we asked of them?
They did. I can send it to you tomorrow.
I'd like that.
Yes, ma'am.
So you agree to the farmer codes?
For what?
There was violation on the farmer code. Did they agree to that too?
On the, as far as the sign out front of it, that's what Warren has said. He's trying
Yes.
to, he's trying to deal with them on that.
Yeah.
In regards to the COA, they did identify each item that we specified in writing that they would do. And you'll see that. So you did that.
I'll send it to you in the morning.
Okay.
Okay, we already kind of talked about beginning to find a new location to reestablish the museum. Our consideration, take discussion, and possible action on finding a historical preservation officer and possible compensation to attract one. Now it's been brought to my awareness that we are required to have an HPO. We do have an HPO and have not had one for a while. That man right over there has been doing the job of it.
Sort
As
of.
well as his own job. Obviously, we have not had anybody line up for that job yet. I have spoke with Rudy Nino and tried to coerce him to come back to us. Not interested at the moment. I have an idea of possibly putting together a compensation plan for an HPO as far as based upon the COAs that they perform. Don't have to do it. It's just an idea I'm throwing out there. I don't know how you guys feel about it. How would we fund it? It'd probably have to come straight out of historic budget because it's not something that's in the city's budget.
Is it
I
a
don't-
city position though?
There's some gray area there. Part of being a CLG, cities required to have an HBO, but they are not required to pay an HBO. It's something that's in their budget. It's something we can request at the next budgeting deal, but until then,
Well, people are really making noises because there's a rumor that taxes are going to increase for the city and they're wanting the city to cut back instead of them raising taxes for us. And so it's really a walking a fine line, isn't it?
it is, and it's something that we have to find a solution for. I'm trying, but I have not ran across anybody that even comes close to yet to meet the qualifications and having the desire to do the job. There's plenty of people out there that are qualified to do the job. They're not interested. Big part of it is it's volunteer, it doesn't pay. There's a lot of work involved in it. There's more work in being an HPO than there is being on a historic commission.
Well, you might, take and set a fee for each kind of COA, and that would be an incentive if they knew that there would be a fee for, because this is part of the city building permit. This has to be done for the building permit in the historic district. So the city should be paying for it, maybe. But if they had just a fee per size of the COA, then that may be, you might find somebody that way.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. It's a possible attraction to them. Mr. Gosnell.
Well, this would take a legal opinion, but you might be able to use hot money, hotel occupancy tax money. That's to support tourism, to support heads and beds, and a lot of the reason people come to Blanco is the historic districts.
That would definitely be something we'll look into. Thank you.
How do you look at,
The hot funds.
how would you look at, the hot thing?
Hot funds, yeah. Maybe you like to. Yes, Mr.
I have a job description. But now, I don't even know what this guy does.
Okay.
It's on the city's website, job description.
It is.
Yeah, job description and
And a
application for
payment
it.
scale.
So if you're interested, get that application filled out. We'll put you to work real quick. So,
There is a job description.
my suggestion is, I don't know, maybe we motion to develop a compensation scale. Not that we have to have one set tonight or decide on how much, but make a motion to develop a compensation scale for possible compensation scale for HBO.
COA would be a little different, so you couldn't just say across the board.
No, you'd have to, like, one for a building, obviously is gonna be more than if they're doing COA for a sign. It's gonna take 2 minutes. So I think, yes, we need to,
I would
I would-
mention that we do that.
okay.
I think, yes.
All in favor? All right, we will develop a compensation plan for possible compensation on CLA or on a HPO. We need to get one. All right, consideration, take possible action on the Blanco Historic Action Plan and Visionary and Preservation. Brenda, would you like to speak to that at all?
Well, I can.
Okay.
I used to always.
Let me start us off.
I'm trying to find this on the agenda exactly what they are. What number is that? Fine.
That was number 8.
Okay, consideration discussion like such. There's no action to be taken on the historic action plan and the visionary preservation. Y'all just need education every so often on it and where it came from. And why we have not friendly skies and why we have everything we've been talking about tonight. In 2003, there was a lot of buzz about doing a comprehensive energy plan. Jim Roderick was mayor and I had been on the council, and so we decided to do it, and I was able to work with every meeting and put it together. But in 2003, we had exploratory, we had a lot of banners across the road and all that kind of stuff to see if people were interested, and they were. So 2004, we started this. The first meeting that we had was at Bobby Mack's, and he was mayor pro tem or on the council one. And our LCRA did ours, and Chris Holtkamp and Richard, Heather Richardson with PEC, they were the ones doing our comprehensive master plan. And Chris told me, Rhoda, I suggest you get the historic commission to go to the mayor, go to your city council, and get it approved to ask for the visionary preservation program. That was a program that was Pasterville was a pilot town. Only 3 towns a year could be approved for this. So we did it. We did go and start ringing the bell. So immediately, Josh Lucier was over there with the Texas Historic Commission. This is all through the Texas Historic Commission, okay? Josh Lucier came out and Candy Cartfield did our first application, and it was a tough one. And we didn't get approved because we didn't have a strong enough historic preservation plan. We had a 1-page ordinance with no keys in it at all. And so she worked on it for a few months and we were turned down. And so I got it the 7th time around. In fact, I asked Candy to come tonight to talk about her experience with Josh Lucier, because it was such a tough application. You have to do all these pictures, and I run them down to San Antonio, and it was a big package to turn in. And he was driving her crazy, and she threw the phone at him. But she had forgotten this. But the next one, I did the next one down, and I had neck surgery sitting on my computer doing it. So the next one, we were finally approved for 2007. It took from 2004 to 2007 we had to become a certified local government. We had to do all the things I'm talking about. And it was tough to get this. So in 2007, in February, we had 7 monthly meetings. And it was really doing the same thing we've done on the comprehensive master plan. It was taking and putting things on the walls. This is what we're going to see. And so in October, this action plan was a product of that. And it's called the Blanco Historic Preservation Action Plan. And it is on file with the Texas Historic Commission. They came here, they spent from 2004 to 2009. Wayne and I were updating the BIP, and he was in Bosnia and I was here. And we were updating in 2009. They were still working with us. And that's how much they have put, the Texas Historic Commission. National Tribute has put millions of dollars into that to help preserve Blanco. So this is why we're kind of watch and see what's going on and make sure that everybody understands streetscape. I have things for y'all. I've already sent it to everybody on the commission. I can attach until late this afternoon, but it will tell you how to go from the comprehensive master plan and to the streetscape, where it came from, and there's a links all the way down to be able to see, to follow the trail. And so I have hard copies here because I couldn't get my computer and my printer to work. But that's all I do on the picture and preservation, and there's no action to be taken. But every once in a while we need a lesson, because the city took this precious book here and stuck it under the counter, and they didn't even know they had it. And they weren't telling people they had it, and I'm sure they're still not telling people they had it. But there's also the design guidelines that we have that's stuck under the counter in the front of the city. And they weren't telling the people who come in for building permits or whatever that we have design guidelines. I was in there one day and this woman came and she said, I don't want a building in a town that doesn't have design guidelines. So anyway, this is the education, and I don't think there's anything more. I have streetscape later, but you can do that. I'm a little bit still recovering from the hard times, so I'll let you do that one.
Could I add something to that?
Yeah, please do, because Wayne and Martha, we had a steering committee, and Wayne and Martha, this is when we met them. They got put on the steering committee.
Yeah, take stuff from student. Just that the action plan was exactly that. It was an action plan to do specific things and specific people were put in charge of specific things. And then several years ago, we did an update. We said, okay, all this stuff that we said we wanted to accomplish, where do we stand? And we did we went down and looked item by item, and then we looked at sub-items. I forget how many, dozens and dozens of them. Some of them accomplished. Some of them, we're working on it. Some of them hadn't even touched it yet. And that document exists somewhere. I think I've got a copy of it.
Yeah, I had, let me go back in the files.
Well, one of those things that was the overriding. And, by George, last year, we finally completed that in terms of the plan by getting Blanco designated as an international website community. Thank you for your help.
Yeah,
So that plan exists and
it's updated just like.
it needs to be updated seriously.
Yeah, we have, but maybe that's the action part of it. We need to update, maybe next time, be thinking about it and get on the schedule the next time.
But that's a council issue, not a historic preservation.
Yeah,
Commission issue.
it's a historic preservation issue.
So the comprehensive master plan covered that, but it also covered the entire city.
We did it through here for this, the comprehensive master plan gets updated in the city.
I'm talking about the historic preservation action plan.
Yeah.
Encompass the entire city, not just the historic district.
Yeah, well, it does, that's true.
Thank you, Retta. That plan is essential to keeping Glencoe preserved and protected. And I think it was 3 years ago, we had a community public meeting and we brought that plan to it and we talked about it. We looked at what had been accomplished, what had not been accomplished, and then we identified what we wanted to get done within a year, within 5 years, and ongoing projects. And we have that list. And I think I sent it to Ryan, but I'll send it out again to everyone. But if you're new to the commission, or sorry, you're the only one new, but to read that really does tell you how it started and why it started. It's an important document, no doubt about it.
And I'll send that out to all the commissioners, and PNC will get one, and Laura said they got one for the city council.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was the email that went out. It had no attachments to it. That's correct. For some reason, the attachments wouldn't attach. Okay. No action, I guess, like that, other than we know we need to update it. With one update on the action plan. Consideration, discussion, and take possible action on a possible complaint letter on 4th Street in Macon. Just throwing that out there. That's, okay, so I'm pretty sure protocol and procedures were not followed on that one. Is it something that warrants issuing a complaint letter about? That's what I'm bringing to the commission right now to think about. We can discuss it further. We can discuss it last. Okay, so the complaint is that that street corner is part of Streetscapes master plan. It's also part of our Blanco Historic District. TxDOT did not.
We're talking about the new renovations to the
Fourth
Street
corner,
corner.
Fourth and Con, correct. That was not run through Streetscapes for design approval, and it was not run through Blanco Historic Preservation Commission for COA.
But it's if you complain, what do you want from that complaint?
What do you want from the complaint? It's a good question. That's what we're here to discuss. Do we even want to complain? Is it some, if we do complain, what do we want from it? Bottom line, I look at it
We
like,
want enough money to fund anything we want to do.
okay.
I think I
That's
can-
fair enough. In my, what I'm thinking of is, the jury's still out from our architect on whether or not that's gonna, fall into her plan. She said she could work with it, other than that they need a few things done to it in order to be brought up to what she had seen.
But
When I look at it is, I'm looking at it not the street corner itself, it's the procedure that we're not followed in the process. Do we just let that go and say, okay, procedures won't follow properly? We were kind of, and that's, do we allow TxDOT to do that to us, or do we not? That is kind of what I'm looking at. I don't know whether or not we're gonna be able to do anything with the design of the corner. It's more of just an official complaint letter to let them know that they've gone outside of the procedures and protocols of how you perform a construction project in the historic district in the state of Texas. It doesn't matter which historic district you go in.
That's always.
Set a precedence. That's what I'm looking to see.
Maybe next time they'll be more careful.
Yes, and whether with us or with some other municipality.
We may not get anything out of it, but maybe they'll pay attention next time.
Okay.
And where we at.
And you're talking about this letter will go to TxDOT.
Maybe we issue it to the city too. I don't know. That's why I'm here to discuss it, because it can be dropped. But if it's an issue that needs to be addressed, I think it does, because whether or not I'm on the historic commission in the future, I would like to not see the historic commission. I'd like to not see streetscapes or any other committee just be avoided, whether it be unintentional or intentional. With problems can happen, but the main deal is with TxDOT. It's, I believe that our current administration and our current elected officials now have been brought up more to speed on some of these processes, and I'm learning as we go as well. I would have caused a much larger stink about it had I understood all of the rules while the process was going on. I caused a small stink about it. It wasn't enough to get the project stopped. We should have stopped that project when it was going on.
Yes.
It should have been stopped. That's the bottom line. And so that's kind of, I don't want this to happen again in the future. I want a statement made. So that whoever is sitting on this commission in the future, they are treated with respect and processes that need to be done. And then in the other commission, the fact that we're going to have laws and rules to follow, or let's change them. If they're not working out properly, then our city council can look into figuring out how to change the rules where they work. But that's rules we're not followed on. That is my feeling.
So if I made a motion that, I would motion that you write a letter to TxDOT officially from the Historic Preservation Commission. I would like, and that letter to be reviewed by the commission before sent.
Okay.
And then if that were to be seconded, we could then have discussion over that and then vote whether to approve or not.
I'll second that.
So when the motions, write a complaint letter to TxDOT, bring it in, have it reviewed by the historic commission before the letter is sent for approval. Gail second, all in favor?
Well, is there a discussion?
Is there any more discussion on that? Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
No.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Number 10, I'm going to strike because that is done. We've already talked about the other. 11, consideration, discussion, and take possible action on inviting the state representative for training it next month or possible special meeting before then, if that's something you guys are interested in. I would like to at least invite our representative for a training session out of that regular. If not, well, so, good to everybody else.
She
What is
was,
that one?
We have a state representative from PAC I'd like to bring in and have just some training.
okay.
Okay.
She was scheduled to come before Billie Jean got sick. She was coming to a meeting. So yes, that was.
Absolutely.
There,
I don't,
Okay.
can't go too much.
The motion on it, make it official.
I'll make an emotion.
Okay. Gail motions, bring in our state representative for training. Barnaby second. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay. That is it for our official business. Get down to some community reports and, we got streetscape. So I'll give you a report on streetscape. We are currently working on our design with the architect. She had given us a time schedule to get us back some literature and possible drawings on phase one of our plan that's going on down here in downtown. By next regular streetscapes meeting, we should have some of that
We
information
should have the
presented.
architectural design.
The architectural design
Yeah,
from
for
Sue Ann
phase one.
Kevington.
Which is all 300 capacity, City Hall,
So that's,
and the four corners are in there.
yes, and the four corners are in there. So that's my report from streetscapes that we should be getting our architectural design.
Can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
We're waiting for that because, I'm wanting to get the whole square restriped with a three-way stop, but we want to make sure that we're respecting the Historic Commission streetscape and make sure that we're doing that in concert with what you envision. But we do need to get the restriping because it's starting to fade and it'll be better for everybody if we have a striped square. And since public safety.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Escalante. That note has been taken and we'll definitely move forward with trying to get that on fast track. And from what I understand, it's coming along. I'm right along with you. Okay. Future agenda items. Requesting not funds for the virus building was one of them. The other thing we have mentioned is possible requesting hot funds, just to look into it, see if it's possible, hot funds for possible HPO. May not be possible, but that's something that will be asked at the next meeting. Okay. Application for Texas Historic Commission recognition for the interior renovations. Yeah, that's for this building. That's why we want to get historic recognition and bring this building possibly up to ADA compliance. That's what we're seeking to do with this building. Is there any other items that you guys can come up with the top of your head that you would like to add to the next agenda that we maybe did not address on this one? I know some of the items we will be returning to on that. Nobody else have any suggestions? Okay, one quick word from the chairman. I appreciate everybody's patience tonight. Thank you for attending. And really great to see some faces out in the crowd when we have a historic. Wonderful. Other than that, I believe our business is done. Other than one last motion.
I'll make it to adjourn.
Anybody second the motion to adjourn? Everyone. We have motion and second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye, that motion is passed unanimously. Thank you, everybody.
That's very hard.